Celebrity culture as we know it is poisonous, toxic, abusive. Everyone knows this. But especially the most important point to make about it is that it is a counterfeit culture. In this counterfeit culture, which has infected American society and wormed its way into the minds of millions of people and shaped how they view things from basic social norms to politics to the world, is fundamentally anti-American. Indeed, my friends, it's very common to hear criticism of celebrities and to hear criticism of the glitz and glamour, the fame lifestyle. And it's also very common to hear gossip and to also hear about stories of people that were famous having personal downfalls. I don't want to focus on the issue in terms of that dimension, because while all of those things are most certainly important and all of those things are most certainly need to be talked about and they're informative, they don't get to the heart of the matter in terms of how celebrity culture, at least in the United States, relates to the health of our society and, most importantly, the health of our political system. Because my argument is that celebrity culture actually dilutes both, and it does so intentionally, and it does so in a very sophisticated way. There are 4 cardinal reasons as to why I believe that celebrity culture is anti-American. Chief amongst those reasons, and I'm going to flesh out all these reasons as the video goes on, but chief amongst those reasons is the fact that celebrity culture teaches people both implicitly and explicitly to discard meritocracy and to value status, and also to view human value as a product of status. I'll explain what I mean in a second. Number 2, celebrity culture gives people a false understanding of excellence. And that false understanding of excellence informs how they perceive information given to them by their favorite celebrity. And in many cases, that leads to bad outcomes. Number 3, celebrity culture perpetuates this myth of perpetual comfort, which weakens the human spirit and puts us in the throes of so many unfortunate things. And of course, Number 4, celebrity culture is largely driven by outrage, clicks, appearances, aesthetics, and rejects any fundamental sense of values underlying it, which culture should be and has to be definitionally based on. Let's discuss number 1. If I want to understand how celebrity culture relates to current American culture, I have to take you all the way back to the 18th century, because this is perhaps the best way to see a contrast of approaches and cultures. In 18th century Europe, human value was described and understood on the basis of how popular you were or what kind of status that you had in that society. If you were a nobleman or a duke or a princess or a king, your value as a human being was estimated to be higher than if you were simply a mere peasant. And this wasn't just a matter of how people saw you. All of this was a matter of how people saw their government as well, because for a very long time in Europe, the system of the divine right of kings, that the king is endowed by some divine source with the authority to rule over you, and that authority must be absolute by him having that source. That was the dominant political theory in many parts of Europe, especially also in Britain. Well, in the New World, in the Americas, where people from the Old World came to these unclaimed lands and created colonies and things of that sort, a different perspective emerged by way of philosophical understanding. People began to see human value as a matter of what you actually did with your time, what you actually believed, and most importantly, what kind of values as a human being that you had and you shared in the context of the community, within the backdrop of natural law and other kinds of other philosophical systems that influenced the New World. And the New World was distinguished by individualism. Well, the problem is this. Celebrity culture in the United States is actually a reassertion of the old world emphasis on status into our country, which has succeeded and has become a great country on the basis of the New World system. Think about how your favorite celebrity is portrayed in the media. For example, let's think about someone like Oprah. Now, Oprah obviously worked very hard to get where she is. But there was a time when Oprah made a speech at an award show. I don't remember the name of the award show. And after that speech happened, people were saying that Oprah should run for president. Now, the presidency is an office that requires much more than simply popularity and the maintenance of appearances, which Oprah is rather adept at. She was in media for her entire career, still is in media. It requires rather a good grasp of first principles, a deep understanding of policy, and a fidelity to the Constitution in everything the Constitution implies. Unfortunately, many presidents have not fit these qualifications for a very long time. That's a different story, different day. But despite all of these different things that are required for a presidency to be good, people were still saying that Oprah would be an ideal candidate for presidency simply because she made a good speech, or so it seemed. But it wasn't just the good speech. It was the good speech in coordination with Oprah's status in the celebrity culture that made people, many of whom already admired her, go crazy about the prospect of an Oprah presidency. Despite the fact that she has demonstrated no grasp of first principles in terms of governance. In fact, her political decisions demonstrate that she has no grasp of first principles. If she did, she wouldn't have picked Barack Obama in 2008. She has demonstrated no grasp of how to craft sound policy, nothing essential for government. But the merits of the presidency were usurped and thrown away because Oprah is popular. And I'm not picking on Oprah. She's simply one example in a whole range of other examples, whether it be Meryl Streep, who made another speech against Donald Trump, and all of a sudden people were saying, you need to run for president. This is a mediocre fascination which suspends what the mind should be focused on. That is someone, they have good character? Are they qualified? Are they skilled? Are they intelligent? Can they reason well? And replaces it with appearances and emotionalism. Celebrity culture is uniquely fitted to let this infection of emotionalism and appearances spread throughout our culture and usurp true meaning because it is entirely based on appearances. That's how they make their money. That's how they make their money. But I think that celebrity culture is much more dangerous than the old world system of seeing human value. Because, and this is the kicker, whereas the king was separate from you, and he was in the palace, he was somewhere over there. Celebrities come into your home through TV, through YouTube, through your phone, and they establish a kind of intimacy with you. And that intimacy and that familiarity softens the mind towards that person, so much so that it almost gives that celebrity a certain degree of influence over that person, which suspends their ability to think beyond their particular fascination or their particular affection. Emotions are so strong. That's why you had people calling for Oprah to be president, not because they were thinking about her in terms of policy and what her morals were, but because she has had a familiarity with people for decades, coming into their homes, talking to them, giving them cars, and that guided their thinking. What is familiar to us, my friends, will more readily be acceptable to us than what is not familiar and what is foreign. And this is what gives the false sense of understanding. In a society of merit, people that actually do things, people that actually have good values, people that actually learn and study, those are the ones that are held up. But in a society where this false sense of understanding reigns, appearances and connections, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Those two things replace merit as the dominant values, and it fills people's heads with this idea that celebrities are somehow qualified to speak about politics simply because they have a big platform. It's a non sequitur. It does not fall from the premises. But a lot of people are under this spell, and it's quite unfortunate. And this is both points, both meritocracy and the false understanding of excellence. Hear this. When you cannot separate what something looks like from what something is, you can't be a moral person. Because ethics requires you to understand substance over superficiality. But many people's minds are dominated by superficiality. And of course, there's no better example of this superficialness that celebrity culture gives than what was most recently seen in the Oscars, where John Cena paraded himself throughout the stage. And just watch. Wow. A man unclothing himself and being intimate and bare beneath an entire audience of people solely for their amusement, and being encouraged and being laughed on by these people. What in the world kind of culture is that? It's a culture of distraction driven by outrage and engagement. That's why they did it, because they wanted the Oscars, which has been suffering in the ratings for so long, to be outraging and also to be engaging. And so they had someone defy, a married man, mind you, defy basic intimacy to be a tool to fatten the pockets of those who stand to benefit from that intention. These are precious commodities in the society of celebrity culture. And it is for this reason, when you are focused on engagement and you're focused on outrage, you're focused on getting attention, you cannot be focused on higher values, which are not as popular in the mass culture and also aren't as easily marketed, because they actually require some effort and they actually require some strain on behalf of the person, which is why they are higher values, because they are worth actually chasing rather than the cheap entertainment and the chatter that comes from what oftentimes comes out of celebrity culture. Understanding, patience, depth, all of these don't matter when it comes to celebrity culture. And that is one of the reasons why it is a great poison to our society. But of course, there's the issue of perpetual comfort. Many celebrities fall into vice, whether it be Elvis, who had terrible diets, or whether it be many celebrities that actually overdosed from drugs or whatever, because the perpetual comfort of luxury is a poor means of achieving human greatness. At some point, when you've accumulated everything there is to accumulate, or you've gained a certain level of popularity, then you have to really ask yourself, what more is there to do? You simply try to preserve what you have. And this reminds me of something that I read in college. There was a philosophical dialogue called the High Road. And in the High Road, there's this person that's talking with the king. And this person who's like a peasant says to the king, "Hey, you're the king. Aren't you the person that has everything that you want in the world? Haven't you reached the pinnacle of life?" And the king says, "It may look like that to you because you're in the field, you're not in my position, but my position comes with some pleasures, but even greater pains than you." Now, if you think about this in the modern context, it makes perfect sense. The President of the United States, or the King of England, has greater pains and perhaps even some greater pleasures, but most certainly greater pains than you and I, because they're in a different position in life than you and I, and that opens them up to more crap. You see? The old adage of more money, more problems goes well here. It's the same exact principle applied in a more sophisticated way. And so the celebrity is perpetually under assault from so many different angles, being pushed in so many different ways, and the norms that surround the culture they're in push them to deal with this in a manner that may not be very beneficial. It pushes them to deal with this kind of constant attention in manners that are not good whatsoever, whether it be excessive partying, whether it be drug use, all kind of things. And when you have this image modeled in front of American society, you are sending the wrong message to people in our society about what is good to pursue and to chase. Because people may say, well, I see this celebrity up there, up on the mountaintop with all these mansions and success, and this is what they're doing, without actually considering what is the cost of what they are doing. So this perpetual comfort that celebrities have, which is not really comfort whatsoever, tricks the masses into believing that their lifestyle is desirable, when in all reality, in many cases, it's hell. And then, of course, as I mentioned, appearances, clicks, outrage, all that kind of stuff is the name of the game. American culture was built, as I mentioned before, on understanding the individual within the context of society, and understanding society within the context of objective moral values, which not only help us be just towards one another, but also helps us enhance the quality of the world we live in, and also implies that there should be a sense of connection between the individual and the outside world, and that self-absorption and being ignorant are not virtues. But in a world where praise is so easily given, In a world where outrageous things seem to draw more eyes than other things that maybe have more merit and substance, where is the compulsion to push you to be connected with the world? Where is the compulsion to push you to be a good person? Where is the compulsion to push you to think deeply about the things of life? There is none. And in celebrity culture, for this reason, there can be none. And for that reason, it's a counterfeit culture because there are no values. There's simply attention and there's self-destruction and there's vice. People may say, well, I'm being simplistic. No, I'm simply looking at what has been laid before us, what we are seeing, and what apparently is evident. It is my hope that all of you will meditate on my words. And you as Americans, I'm talking to people in America right now. There are folks here who are around the country, world obviously. But those of you in America will meditate on what it takes to have a sound culture. Will remember the wisdom of founding generations previous. And you reject the manicured, superficial, destructive, empty, and plastic reality of celebrity culture that cares more about drawing eyes than it does inspiring souls. Because the American way is about inspiring souls to be the best they can be within a context of freedom and a context of virtue, inspiring souls to reach the creative potential, not to be some tool used by some producer to get more views, but to be someone who truly enhances both his own life, his family's life, and the lives of those around him. That's American culture, in my view, based on our history, based on our principles. And that is contrary to whatever trash comes out of the entertainment industry today. May we all remember this, and may we all have fidelity towards this vision. My friends, like, share, comment, subscribe. Follow me, donate to me if you want to, all that good stuff. Study history, study philosophy, and please, stay pensive. Bye, guys.